Deep in El Salvador's volcanic heartland, a tough-looking fortress stands tall, the Center for the Confinement of Terrorism, or CECOT. This is not just another prison, it's a symbol of a new era, a place built to send a message to the world and to the people of El Salvador. Its goal is clear: lock up the country's most dangerous gang members, making sure they never get out. The security here is unmatched, with armed guards, thick walls, and layers of barbed wire, all designed to keep the outside world safe from those inside. CECOT is more than just a prison, it's like a declaration of war, a sign of total control in a country that has suffered from violence for a long time. Its very existence is a warning to anyone who threatens the peace. For years, gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18 controlled the streets, spreading fear and violence in neighborhoods across the country. Their graffiti marked territory and their presence was felt everywhere. Now the government has built a place to end their power. The construction of CECOT was a massive undertaking, representing a turning point in the fight against organized crime. President Bukele showed off CECOT with a message: here the bad times end for Salvadorans and a new reality begins for their enemies. He promised that this fortress would be the final stop for those who once terrorized the nation. The prison is far away, surrounded by guarded roads and country land on purpose. What happens here, stays here. Its remote location makes escape nearly impossible and keeps the chaos of the past at bay. Its design is meant to scare people, showing complete power and no tolerance for bad behavior. Every detail, from the floodlights to the endless cameras, is meant to remind inmates and outsiders alike that this is a place of absolute control. When the first groups of prisoners arrived in 2023, the world watched as men with tattoos, stripped down and chained, were led into the huge concrete building. The images were broadcast everywhere, showing a dramatic shift in how El Salvador deals with crime. These were once the men who scared neighborhoods. Now, they looked helpless, their future decided. The power they once held was gone, replaced by the cold certainty of confinement. The time of CECOT had begun, starting a new and debated chapter for El Salvador. Some see it as hope, others as a warning about the cost of security. The concrete monster had opened its mouth, and for those inside, the gate would only swing one way. Once you enter, there is no turning back. The world paid attention, not just to a prison, but to a country's bold new way of dealing with fear. News crews and human rights groups debated what this meant for justice and freedom. In El Salvador, the age of CECOT had arrived, a new chapter filled with hope for some and uncertainty for others, as the nation faces its future behind concrete walls. To understand CECOT, you first need to understand the fear that came before it. For many years, El Salvador was run not by politicians but by gangs, MS-13 and Barrio 18, who divided the country into violent areas they controlled. They had complete power. Just crossing a street could mean death. Demanding money, killing, and fear were everyday things. The gangs became like a hidden government, deciding who could work, travel, or even fall in love. For many young men, the choice was tough: join a gang or become a victim of one. The government felt absent, the police were outmatched, and the justice system was broken. Government efforts to stop them and peace deals failed. Gangs changed, even running their operations from inside prisons. The cycle of violence seemed endless, making people desperately want a leader who would stop it no matter the cost. Because of this hopelessness, the demand for big changes grew louder. CECOT is the answer to that demand, a fortress built on the ruins of a country held captive. Bukele becoming president marked a dramatic turning point for El Salvador. His rise to power brought a new energy and a promise of radical change, especially in the fight against the country's notorious gangs. Bukele didn't just pledge to improve security, he vowed to completely dismantle the gangs that had terrorized Salvadorans for decades, making safety his top priority. In March 2022, after a weekend marked by a shocking spike in killings, Bukele declared a war against gangs. He suspended key civil liberties, giving authorities sweeping new powers to act fast and decisively. Police and soldiers swept through neighborhoods, arresting tens of thousands of suspected gang members, sometimes based on little more than a rumor, a tattoo, or simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The old prisons quickly became dangerously overcrowded, unable to hold the sheer number of new detainees. Faced with this crisis, the government rushed to build a new fortress-like prison, one that would be impossible to escape and could house thousands. This is how CECOT was born. a massive, high-security complex designed to be a black hole for gang power, cutting off all communication and isolating leaders from their networks. The government's message was unmistakable. There would be no more negotiations, no more leniency, and no more second chances for gang members. CECOT was to be the final battleground, a place where the government's will would be tested against the gang's resolve, and where the fate of El Salvador's security would be decided. The crackdown was unprecedented, drawing global attention as the world watched El Salvador rewrite the rules of its own survival, sparking debate and controversy far beyond its borders. For Bukele, CECOT became the centerpiece of his uncompromising strategy, a symbol of his determination to restore order at any cost. The war on gangs now had a new front, forged from concrete and steel, representing a new era of control and zero tolerance. The time for compromise was over. El Salvador had entered the age of total control, with the government holding all the power. Now the nation's future, and the outcome of Bukele's bold experiment, would be decided behind the imposing walls of CECOT. CECOT is a fortress built for complete control. Its faraway location and tall walls are just the start. Security cameras, drones, and fingerprint scanners track every move. Inside, 8 concrete sections work like separate worlds, keeping people apart and crushing any hope of them getting organized. Cells are empty, too crowded and designed to make people feel less human. No mattresses, no personal items, no privacy. Lights stay on 24/7, making it impossible to tell time or feel comfortable. Talking to the outside world is completely cut off. No calls, no letters, no visits. Every detail is meant to destroy gang identity and stop any return of their power. Even basic needs become ways to control: shared toilets, constant watching, and a never-ending routine. CECOT is not just a prison, it's a mind game, built to erase the past and make sure the government's will is followed. Here, the building itself is the ultimate guard. Life inside CECOT is a never-ending cycle of having nothing and being controlled. Prisoners sleep on metal beds or the floor, packed 100 to a cell, under lights that never turn off. Meals are small, eaten quickly while masked guards watch. There are no activities, no learning, no work, just endless hours locked in concrete. Gang identity is slowly removed, heads shaved, tattoos marked for removal, all personal traits taken away. Punishment is fast, being put alone in totally dark cells for any sign of not following rules. The goal is complete obedience, breaking the desire to fight back. For most, there is no hope of leaving, only the endless sameness of CECOT. In March 2024, the story of CECOT, the world's largest mega-prison, captured headlines and shocked audiences across the globe. Suddenly, the facility became a symbol of both fear and controversy. That month, the US government deported 250 Venezuelan men, accused of having gang affiliations, and sent them directly to the infamous Salvadoran prison. The move was unprecedented, drawing immediate attention from human rights groups and international media. Salvadoran authorities treated the arrivals as hardened criminals, parading them before cameras. But soon, a very different narrative began to emerge, challenging the official story. Lawyers and families insisted that most of the men were simply migrants or asylum seekers fleeing violence, not gang members. Many had never been charged with any crime, let alone convicted. Tattoos that are common in Venezuela, symbols of family, faith, or sports, were misinterpreted as gang markings by authorities, sealing the men's fate and fueling public outrage. The men were sent to CECOT without a fair legal process or the chance to defend themselves, sparking protests and legal challenges in the United States and beyond. For 4 long months they endured the same harsh conditions as Salvadoran inmates: overcrowding, forced labor, and strict discipline, while their families waited anxiously for news. Then in July 2024, the men were suddenly released as part of a secretive prisoner exchange deal between the US and Venezuela, leaving many questions unanswered. The ordeal highlighted the global reach and heated debate surrounding El Salvador's tough-on-crime policies and how they intersect with international politics. CECOT had become a bargaining chip in international power struggles, raising urgent questions about justice, fairness, and the protection of human rights. The world watched as the boundaries between crime, migration, and punishment grew increasingly blurred, leaving many caught in the crossfire. The suffering of the Venezuelan men exposed the harsh reality of life inside CECOT and forced the world to confront the true cost of such controversial policies. The released Venezuelans told shocking stories from inside CECOT. They described beatings, rubber bullets, and mental torment by masked guards. Some claimed sexual assault and not getting medical care, with medicine held back as punishment. Guards, they said, encouraged suicide and filmed cruel punishments. Human rights groups said the conditions were torture, demanding investigations. The Salvadoran government denied all claims, saying they followed strict rules. But the stories caused anger worldwide, challenging the official version and revealing the prison's darkest secrets. CECOT and Bukele's crackdown have caused different opinions. At home, Bukele is seen as a hero, crime has dropped a lot, and daily life feels safe for the first time in many years. Many Salvadorans see harsh methods as a fair price for peace, ignoring international criticism as being out of touch. But abroad, human rights groups call Bukele a dictator, pointing to mass arrests, torture, and the weakening of fair legal processes. The debate is strong. Can safety justify giving up justice? Some leaders look at Bukele's model as a solution, others warn of its dangers. Even the US, involved in the Venezuelan deportations, faces its own conflicts. El Salvador's experiment makes the world ask, is safety worth the cost to human dignity? The answer is still very much argued. El Salvador has changed. It's safer, but at what cost? The gang's power is broken, but over 1% of the population is now in prison, many without a trial. CECOT's walls hold not just criminals, but the country's conscience. Claims of torture and abuse hang over the new order, raising fears that the government has become like what it once fought. The main reasons for violence, poverty being left out, are still not fixed. Has El Salvador found lasting peace or traded one problem for another? The world watches, weighing group safety against individual rights. The true story of CECOT and Bukele's war has yet to be written.